Hey everybody, welcome back to Checkpoint on Campus, your official and #1 resource for collegiate esports. Norris Howard here alongside Jacob Brothers coming from Sandy, Las Vegas. And we got one of our longtime OG behind the scenes members, Ethan Schneider, joining us to talk a little bit about new legislation coming out of Puerto Rico. Now, Puerto Rico is one of those places, part of the United States, but not part of the United States. Anyway, a new legislation has come down in Puerto Rico that is legalizing esports betting. This is an interesting development. So, Ethan, give us a little information on this.
Yeah, no, this is just... So, the bill they introduced is called Project 1534 by their new acting governor, Pedro Pierre Luisi. And basically what it is legalizing not just esports betting, but also part of a much broader sports betting in the whole territory. So it's joining states like Michigan, Nevada, New Jersey, all the states where they have legal sports books, and this is just making it essentially legal, and also apparently overriding a loophole that they had where this really wasn't allowed. So this is just another layer that hopefully they could boost the economy.
Yeah, and I wanted to talk about this, and I wanted to bring this up because you got, Ethan, you've gone to UNLV and lived and been in Las Vegas for a number of months and maybe, in years. Jacob, you're still in Las Vegas, and we know the power that the sports book of Las Vegas and other places has had on collegiate sports in particular, even almost more so than pro sports, but in collegiate sports. And I want to ask this to you, Jacob. As we see esports betting start to become more of a thing, do you think that people are going to start kind of looking at collegiate esports as more of a place to start putting some betting dollars as opposed to pro esports, or do you think we have to grow to that point?
I really don't know. I feel like, granted, Vegas has already had esports betting, and Puerto Rico doing it's going to put it a lot more on the map, and maybe the Vegas sportsbook will care a little bit more. But I feel like the age demographic that's primarily gambling still does not care about esports in general, not even collegiate. But it's like, I highly doubt that many people bet on the Overwatch League Grand Finals. I highly doubt that many people betted on Rocket League in general. And so maybe, I still think it's probably like a 5-year away thing, maybe. Like once people care about esports enough, then gamblers can be like, oh, there's something else that we can bet on? And they'll be like, yeah, here's the same thing. A college. And they'll be like, oh. But I still think we're pretty far ways away from it.
Yeah, and Ethan, I want to ask, when is this new law supposed to go into effect?
So there really isn't a set date, but it's supposed to... Yeah, there really is no set date. Try to look for one, but it's just sort of a new thing, and hopefully got to wait and see. And just to go off your point, Jacob, I think we're almost a few decades away from... I feel like once we're older and we're considered the boomers to I don't even know the next generation, but I feel like that's when you'll start to see more people care about not just esports but also collegiate esports, and maybe we will start seeing those sort of March Madness or college football playoff sort of things with esports.
Yeah, maybe. And it's interesting because I remember one of the first esports events that I was given an opportunity to cover as a journalist, and I remember a guy who was a dad of one of the kids who was at the event, and the dad walks up to me and he shows me a betting platform on his phone, and he says, well, which team should I be betting on? And I'm like, dude, Great. What? It was the first time that esports betting I've ever had to confront it in the wild, and it was crazy. And this was a couple years ago, or a few years ago. And so I think we are getting there. To both of you guys' points, I do think it'll be a number of years before we get to that point. Gambling across the board is pretty down. Not just because of COVID, it's been going down for a few years now.
More of an age
and I
thing.
think this is it's an age thing, and I think this is also just some cultural changes. People are just less willing to gamble. I know millennials, Gen Z are less willing to gamble. So it is something to think about. Do I think it'll ever reach the heights that it is during college basketball season? No, I don't. I don't think it'll ever reach those heights.
Fair.
But I think that this is a interesting move for Puerto Rico, just as it was an interesting move for Las Vegas and Michigan and other states. But I do think that this is a step into a future where we start to see esports betting become more of a thing. And once people start winning a lot of money and start having some success stories, we might see the interest increase as well. But we want to thank Ethan for sharing that story, and we also want to thank the rest of you for listening. That's going to be that conversation. We're going to have more coming up. Checkpoint on Campus.